Talk Radio.
Is it time to worry about consumer debt?
Record debt in America has brought us here to Atlanta, Georgia. That has some of the highest numbers of people in debt in the country, where they say just about everybody here knows somebody who's in debt. Like one resident we found living in this tunnel under blinding yellow lights. His name is Dennis Johnson, who says he ended up here after losing his job and going into debt.
So I became homeless that quick.
No housing?
No housing, no nothing, no food.
Dennis says his debt and subsequent depression made him turn to alcohol and drugs to escape his problems. That ultimately, he says, landed him here on the streets with other people in similar circumstances. Dennis is among millions of Americans who've lost everything from being in debt. Debt from student loans, credit cards, car loans, and home loans. According to the Federal Reserve, total consumer debt has hit an all-time high in the United States, with the average indebted household owing more than $100,000. Nationwide, household debt now exceeds $18 trillion. By comparison to other countries, American citizens are in deeper financial trouble than citizens of Russia, Pakistan, and the Republic of Congo. Economists estimate that over 1 million Americans are currently in the process of declaring bankruptcy.
I'm definitely getting more referrals.
Bankruptcy attorney Charles Clapp makes a living showing up here at bankruptcy court in Atlanta to help clients who've chosen to erase their debt, if they can, by filing for bankruptcy.
Ordinarily, people file bankruptcy for two reasons. Reason number one is creditors are trying to take their stuff. For example, they have a house, they're behind on the mortgage, and the creditor is going to foreclose on the house. Or number two, they've got a car payment, they fell behind, somebody's going to repossess the car. So that's the main reason. The second reason is people are taking their money, and that's when they've defaulted on their debts, the creditor went to state court and sued them, and now the creditor is enforcing a judgment lien. They're garnishing the debtor's wages, or they're levying the bank account. So the people literally don't have money to pay for anything. Their money is all tied up.
He says filing for bankruptcy will often hurt a person's credit rating for a few years, but it's often the only viable option many Americans have to getting rid of their debt. He tells them there's nothing to be ashamed of, that bankruptcies are America's way of giving people a second chance to rebuild their finances and their lives.
In this country, we want you to go out and start again, give you a second chance. So I usually give my clients famous examples. Walt Disney, the Disney Corporation that you know today, that wasn't Walt Disney's first try. He had another design house that filed bankruptcy. Sam Walton, the Walmart store that you go to today, that wasn't his first try. He had another store, and that failed.
Can we think of anybody in Washington?
There's a guy that filed bankruptcy 4 times, but I just can't remember his name.
It's funny because I'm actually doing an interview about the bags, and then I said, look, he's out there wearing one now. Thank you. See you later, darling. Bye.
Patrice Hull is a successful small business owner here in Atlanta who sells a popular sling bag or backpack you'll see people using on the streets here. And what's that called again, the bag?
It's created to be noticed. So it's C2B in bag.
Among many other items in her shop. And does she ever have a story about being in debt a few years ago that put her in the hospital, she says, with a panic attack, with a debt of over $250,000.
About $280,000 worth. And it had spanned for years.
Patrice says her debt problems began with $100,000 in student loans that she couldn't pay off during her years working in the corporate world for health insurance companies.
I worked corporate America most of my life. And after being laid off 3 times, I felt ashamed. I felt like I made this debt, so now I need to clear it up, but things kept happening. I had student loan debt, like almost $100,000, actually a little over $100,000 worth of student loan, and still yet I'm getting laid off.
She then made the risky decision to sell her home to help pay off some of her college loans and to open a business of her own, this corner boutique that she gave a rather quirky name to, Stuff We Want to Say.
The reason I actually call my store Stuff We Want to Say is because I was angry. I was angry at having a degree, having a master's degree, and still getting laid off and not being able to find work.
Her new shop took off at first. Business was booming.
Here are some of my clients that have visited the store. I mean, I've had everyone from the mayor of Atlanta to Amy Adams, but the pandemic hit and it just crashed.
The COVID pandemic enabled small business owners like Patrice to take out emergency loans. So she did. Almost $150,000 worth to pay her rent here and keep her business afloat. But then she finally went broke. All she had left was one credit card she was using to buy food. And she could no longer even afford to pay that credit card bill.
The worst day was when I had one credit card that I think I've had for more than 20 years. And, you know, they thought that I was the best. And then all of a sudden, when things got rough and I couldn't pay it, they were coming after me. My blood pressure was up, and I eventually went to the hospital because I didn't know what was wrong, but I was panicking, having a panic attack.
Facing eviction at her apartment, she met a neighbor who told her what she could do.
And the neighbor was an attorney, and he said, "Have you considered bankruptcy?"
She turned to bankruptcy attorney Charles Clapp, who was able to get most of her debt discharged or forgiven in bankruptcy court, convincing the court that Patrice's student loans and business loans were holding her back from turning things around, which she has since done, she says, after filing for bankruptcy.
Mr. Clapp helped me realize, look, you're a one-woman show.
People can recover from debt. And I know that when you're in debt, it's like carrying a black cloud around with you wherever you go. So it's one of the things that gives me pleasure to be a bankruptcy attorney, is I get to help people get out from that black cloud and get their life restarted.
He was like, be thankful. You've made it all this time without doing this. You deserve it. And he just made me feel good.
Clapp says many people in debt in America fear they'll go to their graves in debt, and that the debt will be passed on to their children.
In this country, your heirs do not inherit your debts.
And what about debtor's prison for all those out there who think there is such a thing?
We do not have debtor's prison in this country. You don't go to jail in this country for failing to pay your debts. With some exceptions, if you are avoiding paying taxes, you can go to jail for that. And if you are a deadbeat parent that doesn't pay the domestic support obligation, you can go to jail for that.
Credit counselor Derica Handspike is with American Consumer Credit Counseling. She advises and educates individuals on managing their money and debt to avoid having to file bankruptcy in the first place.
It's about survival.
She says her first words to people in debt are often, "You're not alone," at a time when the household debt of all Americans nationwide, as previously mentioned, is over $18 trillion. The debt crisis for Americans, she says, is real.
Very real. Very real. I speak to people all day about debt.
Her advice is simple. She says don't spend on things you don't need, and stay away from credit cards, many of which are predatory lenders charging astronomical interest rates that are impossible to pay down for people who sign up for them.
They're unaware of the predatory lending that they are putting themselves, in vulnerable states to. And so they're getting high interest rate credit cards, high interest loans, and it looks good at the moment when you need it. They're in situations where they're needing the funding. So we are a nonprofit. We are a debt management program. And so essentially what we do is we get lower interest rates and lower monthly payments for our clients. And so that puts them on a plan to get out of debt in 3 to 5 years. And sometimes even sooner than that. It just depends on the amount of debt that they have.
Bankruptcy attorney Charles Clapp says the bottom line for staying out of debt is stay away from borrowing money. That's where people get into trouble, he says, where they end up losing their homes. Why we see so many foreclosed and abandoned homes in America.
The first way to get out of debt is to stop borrowing money. Just that simple, just don't borrow money. I would advise you to not borrow money to buy a car, and you really just shouldn't borrow money for anything. The only thing you should be using credit for is as a tool to build up your credit rating high enough so that you can get favorable terms when you purchase a home. That's really the only time I want you borrowing money.
Back here in Atlanta's Yellow Tunnel, advice from unhoused resident Dennis Johnson is simple too.
Pay your bills. Yep.
Patrice Hull's advice to people in debt:
This way?
don't be ashamed to ask for help, she says, even if it means filing for bankruptcy. She says bankruptcy saved her business in the end.
You should have a fresh start.